eat one? That's what he said. No, 6.
This song stuck in my head. Residence. That's the only part I
Mr. Rhodes is going to make you watch it again.
Oh, no.
No. Tell him no. Tell him you watch it in math class. And he needs to do math in his class.
Yeah, only math.
So what seems wrong about this is you're like, oh no, there's no quotient rule, right? Can't you just break this up, right? Isn't this just the same as x squared over x, which is just x plus 3?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
X squared over x plus 3x over x.
If this is reading weekend, you have to go slower, okay?
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's just a monomial in the bottom. So then you can cross out one of those and just get x. And then that's just 3.
I actually got that on the line.
And then you can integrate that. It's pretty good to review for me to see. So do I need to continue? Can you go from here?
I don't think that's
X squared over 2 plus 3x from 1/2 to 4. Because there's bounds, so when there's bounds, we don't do plus c. When there's no bounds, you do plus c. So if I plug 4 in there, that would be, I better just show my work. Yes, no, maybe. That would be times 4 times 4 would be 12/8. So 1/8 plus 12/8 is 13/8. Stop me if I mess up. Oh yeah, I think that's right. It says 147 over 8. Because that would be 20 times 8 would be. But why am I subtracting? I might have messed up a sign somewhere because it says 1. Oh no, that's right, 147. I thought it said 170 something. So 147 over 8. That's why I paused. Not that I didn't know it was 160.
I wasn't sure, like, that looks good, and you're like, times 8, and I was like, that's not hard. I was like,
No, I was thinking like that's not gonna give me 170, but I switched the 7 and the 4. And when I looked at the answer, and I was like, so that kind of arithmetic, right? Like you could be expected to have to do that without a calculator. But I think this is what probably maybe got you is you forgot like there is no quotient rule. There is no what's the other rule? Product rule. That's what I was looking for. You have to do use substitution or you have to make it work to fit the rules that we have, and so that's one that's like that.
So we totally did long division.
You could have done long division, but you should have still gotten x plus 3.
Yeah, we did. I don't know. When we plugged it in, we must have done something wrong. So
Okay.
but that's.
And then not 21, but 23 because I didn't give you 21. Tyler just typed wrong. I think I just told Tyler. So, u substitution doesn't seem to work on this because if you pick x squared minus 25 as your u, you need an x in the top, but we don't have an x in the top, right? Then you think, oh, maybe it's arctangent, but it's not arctangent because this would have to be a plus sign. Yes? If that was a plus sign, it would be arctangent. It's neither. So our only other option is partial fraction decomposition. Looking in the back of the book, seeing the answer is ln of something over something is kind of a big hint as well. Obviously, you don't have that hint on the test. But if it was multiple choice, maybe you could look, like multiple choice question, they would probably put an arctangent as one of the choices. They would put things like that to hopefully, they'd be like, well, it can't be arctangent because it's not a plus sign. So this is where we're going to say 25 over x squared minus 5 equals a over x minus 5 plus b over x plus 5. And if I make x equals multiply, and I get 25 equals a times x plus 5 plus b times x minus 5. And if I say x equals 5, then I get a equals, yes, a fraction. Jarrett, you with me on that? And if a equals negative, why do I say a? X equals negative 5, then we're just going to get negative 10b, so we're just going to get b equals negative 5 halves. So I get the integral of 5 halves over x minus 5 plus negative 5 halves over x plus 5. Did I do that backwards? No, that's... Oh no, what shall we do? It's a fraction. Yeah, those are just like our constants that you hate, that you think I just make rules up that I just move them out front, right? But it really is just a constant out front. Like this can just say 5 halves and then the ln of x minus 5 minus 5 halves times the ln of x plus 5 plus c. And I would probably do, which again, you can look back in the book, but these have the same coefficient, so like I would take that out front and say that's ln of x minus 5 over x plus 5. And then you could put that back up as exponent. Oh no, they left the 5 halves in front on that one.
Would you take points off if we did 65 like that? 'Cause I mean, my answer, I got the right answer, I just did something.
This would be a multiple choice question. So if it wasn't multiple choice, I wouldn't take it off. But this would not be a choice, and this would have to be the choice, so it kind of forces you to recognize, oh yeah, I could put that together like that, right? So a big part of this test, both calculator and non-calculator, is going to be thinking about how can I integrate that, right? Like, what are my options? Is it U substitution? Is it partial fraction decomposition? Is it just breaking up the fraction? Is it arctangent? That's fun, right? What was the other one? 31? Tyler emailed his questions. That's what we're talking about, these questions right now. Because he's sickly. So, would you try to just move the y over, maybe? Like you try to just subtract the y? Just the y?
I moved the dx over and then I divided.
The whole thing, right? Y plus 2? Because if you try to just subtract the y, then you can't, like, it just doesn't work out. So, like, you have to think of this as one whole thing here. And so when you move the dx over, right, the only way to get rid of that whole thing is to divide it over. And then you just get dx here, right? Put a 1 there if you want. And then we've seen this a lot, right? The reason we talked about exponential growth and decay so much in this chapter is because every time that we're dividing over there with y, or not every time, but most of the time, that's an ln. So we get ln of y plus 2 equals just x plus c. And again, you have options. You can try to solve for y now, or you can solve for y or c first and then y. I tend to solve for c first. The books doesn't always do that, but so this is my x and this is my y. So I would say that this is ln of 4 equals just c. So I have ln of y plus 2 equals x plus ln of 4. And then I'm trying to solve for y, so I get e both sides. That cancels this out. And I just get y plus 2 equals e to the x plus ln of 4. If this was not a multiple choice question, you don't have to know all the simplifying stuff, right? So just saying, if you wrote y equals e to the x plus ln of 4 and then minus 2, even though that's not the same as the answer in the back of the book, it's the same thing. It's just you could simplify this. Like we talked about, this is e to the x times e to the ln of 4, because when you add exponents, it's like multiplying, and the e and the ln cancel out. So that's why the back of the book says 4 e to the x minus 2. But I promise if it was a free response question and you left your answer as e to the x plus ln of 4, all the exponent, and then minus 2, you would still get your point on that. So it's just on a multiple choice question, you would have to be able to match it up.
Is that kind of like 32 as well?
Yes, because you can divide the y plus 1 over, and same idea. Like you might have an ln of 2 up in your exponent if you solve for c first, and that brings the 2 out front. But yes, 32 is very similar to this one. That's the one I sent you guys, right? Other questions on these?
Okay, so I don't need to go to let's go over the whole thing, but on number 3, would that be a non-sequitur or whatever? Do you think?
Why? Because it was a lot of math?
Yeah, there was like negative exponents and stuff, and he was trying to do it without a calculator, and he got the wrong answer. And I just plugged it in my calculator, and I got 8.
On a definite interval, it would always be without a calculator if it's something you can do, because otherwise you could always just use Math 9, right? Usually on the AP exam they don't have to do a lot of stuff, but you should be able to do, because the negative exponent you could just move it to the bottom, right? Make it a fraction. They usually don't do awful math on the no calculator part. If I put awful math on your no calculator part, then sometimes I'm nice and like you have a scientific calculator, but I try not to. I try to make it similar to AP stuff. There have been a couple in the last few years that I was like, I'm kind of surprised they made me do that much arithmetic. But for the most part, it's not terrible. Close.
Number 12.
So number 12 I think is a U substitution problem. And again, that's the part that you have to kind of think through tomorrow. So when I look at the question, I can't really do the chain rule on it, right? We don't have a chain rule. I can't do the quotient rule. But I see right away that this is like an inside function. So I would make my u 3x plus 4. So then my du would just be 3dx. So if I divide that over, I just need a 1/3 out there. So I can write that as the cube root of u, and then 1/3 du. Or I could even say that's u to the negative 1/3 du. If you try u and it doesn't work tomorrow, right, then that means try something else. Maybe it's arctangent, maybe it's fraction decomposition, or maybe you can just simplify it like we did on the number 6 or whatever one we did there. So this would just be 1/3 u to the add 1 to that would just be 2/3 plus c. And then don't forget, I don't care what u is, I care what x is. So I have to go back and write that as 3x plus 4 to the 2/3. Oh, thanks. 2/3 divided by 2/3 is the same as multiplying by 3/2, so really that's a 1/2. I'll miss that problem.
So that's what I did, and I was like, wait, I have 1/3 on there.
Right. I forgot to say divided by 2/3 here. Sorry. The nice thing, except for arctangent, we've done an example of like all the different kinds of problems. Did I give you any on here with arctangent?
I think that's number 13 that I mentioned.
Not number 13 because there's a T in the top. So again, arctangent and ln very easily mixed up because of problems like this. And usually arctangent, this is a perfect square. I'm not saying they couldn't do that, but it means you'd have a square root of 5. Like, that's kind of gross. Usually this would be like t squared plus 25 if it was arctangent. But the reason it's not arctangent is because there's a t up here. So if you make u t squared plus 5, then your du is 2t dt, and you need the 1/2 out front. If there wasn't a t here, then u substitution would not work. And that's where I tend to, if I see something like this, I always start with u substitution, and then if it doesn't fit, right, we can't make a t appear in the problem, so you can't just do that. You can't make an arc sine appear in the problem, or tangent appear in the problem. That means you have to try something else, like arctangent or fraction decomposition. Other questions?
Number 17. They got like ln of the ln of something. I thought it was like the ln of x ln of x. I don't know.
I think this is a u substitution again. Did you do u substitution? Like if you make this your u equals ln of x, then your du is 1 over x dx, which is exactly what we have in there, right? All of that is your du. So you can say that that's just the integral of 1 over u du. So that's just ln of u, and u was ln of x, so we can say the ln of x. I feel like you don't need absolute value bars. Oh, they have absolute value bars. Okay, just kidding. Again, I think this is where, I don't know if multiple choice is going to be more confusing or helpful, but it's nice sometimes when you look at the answers, because if you're not sure how to do it, if you see something like that, it might be like, oh, that had to be a u. If they got ln of ln, there had to be a u in there somewhere. So hopefully that'll give you some hints as you go, maybe. Definitely you can expect to see a slope field sometime over the next 2 days, where you have to make a slope field, maybe sketch a curve.
So for number 50, when I were supposed to draw out, we weren't really sure if we were supposed to like copy the slope field or just sketch it.
Yeah, you could just sketch it freehand. On the AP test or on my test of AP style, they would give you this to write on, right? So you would have the slope field, which is more. It's nicer to have that because you can actually draw on the field that's there. It's a lot more. Like if it was me, I might have held my paper over that and tried to draw.
Also, on number 55, they did, I think we discovered used 5700 and 5730.
Yes. I promise.
Which one to use.
I promise if on my test or on the real AP test, they won't expect that you have the carbon 14 half lesson right. I'll tell you which one to use. Okay.
Which one do you use
On
on 55?
55, they used 5700 instead of 5730. They just rounded it. That's fine. But yes, if you use 5730, then your answer is a little bit different. Other questions? So tomorrow we'll do, which part are we doing? No calculator tomorrow. Thursday is calculator. Your homework won't be due till Thursday. I'm a slacker and did not make an assignment sheet, but I can put one together because we have 20 minutes left. So you can just kind of keep working on this if you have others.